Today we are going to be creating this awesome tire table and surprising my dad with an early Father's Day gift.
Ta-da! What a genius son I got.
Father's Day is coming up and I want to create something meaningful. Not just for my dad, but something that you guys can make for yours too. This idea has been on my mind for over 6 years and today it is finally happening. This project is super beginner friendly, plus I'm going to be using basic tools, stuff that you may even have at home. At the end, I'm going to tell you guys about how much it cost me and a very important note if you do plan on making this yourself. So stick around and let's get started. So you can use any tire for this, but depending on its size, your measurements might vary a bit. Here's the one that we're going to be using today. This old tire that's been sitting around collecting dust. But it's not just any tire. It does have a backstory, which I'll tell you in a second. I'm going to start by using a pressure washer and try to clean it up a bit. First, let me spend way too much time untangling the hose. I'm going to try to use some Dawn with this to help break down some grease. I'm just going to skip this because it didn't do enough, so let's try by hand. So next, I grabbed an old cleaning mitt. This one I swear I've had since I was a baby, and I used to watch my dad clean the cars with it. If you recognize this thing, drop a comment. While I scrubbed this down, here's the backstory. Over 6 years ago, my dad gave me this tire. That's when I first had the idea to turn it into a table, and now it's finally happening. The oldest clip that I could find of it, back when my garage wasn't even a wood shop yet. Now that the tire's clean and dry, I tried using this old grease remover that I found in my garage, and I quickly noticed how much oil, dirt, and grease was still on this thing, which made me realize that I had to give it a much better clean. First, I'm gonna actually sweep all this crap out of the way so I have a cleaner area to work. I loaded up a new bucket with water and some more Dawn dish soap, but this time I used a soft but stiff bristle brush, and I scrubbed this thing a lot. This worked much better as I didn't have to worry about all the fluff getting stuck on the tire from the towels or the glove that I was using before. I wanted to see how old this tire actually was, so I tried looking for a typical dot number, but after some research I found out that I had to contact the manufacturer directly to find out the date of these tires from their database. So I called and he said he was going to look into it for me, and I finally got a call back.
Your tire is so old, there's no record of it in the system anymore.
Oh, is that right? All right, well, thank you for letting me know. I appreciate you looking into it.
Sure thing, you're welcome.
All right, bye-bye. Okay, so pause. I don't really know what happened here. I guess I didn't really record it because I only have a 1-second clip of this, but let me kind of explain what happened next. If you notice from previous shots, there was this big crack along the perimeter of the actual tire. I didn't really like the look of it, but I didn't think there was much I could do. I ended up using some Instant Bond, and I kind of spread open the crack, filled it with a bunch of the glue, and then used a wet paper towel, which ended up just kind of smudging it everywhere. But then I would spray the activator spray, and it actually kind of worked out really good. Now, even though that the crack repair didn't really look that great, I also didn't like how faded the actual letters were, so I decided to just paint the entire thing with a matte black spray paint. I ended up doing 2 coats of the matte black paint, and I didn't bother painting the inside of the tire because I wasn't really worried about what that color looked like, considering it wouldn't be the main focal point. So now let's make these letters pop. I went in there with this white Sharpie paint pen thingy, and well, it didn't really look great. At this point, I knew the only option was to paint it by hand, which you'll soon realize why I was dreading. But luckily, I had some white paint from when we designed our own beehive, so I thought that that would work perfectly. One thing you might have not known about me, I have very shaky hands. My doctor doesn't think it's anything to be concerned about, but this is why I wasn't looking forward to painting. I even tried to two-hand the paintbrush. After a dreadful 2 hours and 3 coats of paint, here are the results, I guess. I went back with a black Sharpie and cleaned up all the white overspill. But it didn't even stop there. Somehow my shaky hands got the black marker on the white, so I had to go back and touch it up with the white paint. Okay, enough tire talk, let's move on to the base. Sanded plywood gives a cleaner look, but like an idiot, I traced my circle on the wrong side. To prep the base circle, I marked the center by measuring out 19 inches, put a screw in slightly, but making sure not to pierce the other side, tied a string around it, and guided a pencil around the circle. Then I realized I wanted it an inch bigger, so I moved the screw, drew again, and well, you see I didn't exactly do a perfect circle this time. Luckily it will be hidden by the tire anyways. I started cutting it with my jigsaw, and if you're doing this at home and don't own a jigsaw, you could use a circular saw, or the best tool is most likely going to be a router with a circle jig, but we're just going to keep it simple for this video. Now, after realizing my mistake, I put a little bit of wood glue in the screw holes and then grabbed some of the dust from cutting to fill these screw holes. I took the piece and gave it a quick sand on the top side with 120 grit and then 220 grit sandpaper. I did the back with 120 just to rough it up a bit as I wasn't worried about making it smooth. Also, I wasn't worried about having all the pencil taken off as I knew it was going to be hidden by the tire once installed. Now I wiped the piece down from any dust that might still be on there. I gave it a quick whack, whack, and now it's time for stain. I decided to go with a dark stain to help make it blend in with the black tire but not be invisible when you look at it from the top. This is actually my first time staining, so don't hate on my sick techniques. After my coat of stain was dry, I put on some varnish, and typically you would do 2 coats, but I didn't have any mineral spirits to clean my brush up after, so I ended up just throwing it away and I didn't have a backup. I can always give it a second coat later down the road, but make sure to sand in between coats if you do it at home. And also buy mineral spirits, or 2 brushes. Once dry, off camera, I did end up taking it outside and then just sprayed the back with some black spray paint. I think this was a good way to kind of finish the bottom so it would kind of blend in with the tire more, and I also was able to use the rest of the paint that was in my spray can. Alright, here we are, the final step. Let's put everything together. I think the bottom piece turned out really nice, but let's add some legs onto it. I found these 8-inch hairpin legs on Amazon and I decided to use them. I lined these up by marking the corners and then eyeballing the brackets to make sure that they are aligned with each other. With the legs on, we screw the base right into the tire using wood screws. So I left some of the screws out from the legs so that I could use my wood screws to mount it to the tire, but I ended up just snapping a screw. So I ended up just putting in screws between the legs. I also tried a small test spot on the backside of the tire to see what clear coat would look like, but I decided to go without it. This is something that you can always add later, but it will be much harder to take it away. Okay, base is on, let's flip it over. Now I saw some of the screws I used to mount the base were ever so slightly sticking out, and there were some holes that were there from the tire, which were showing light peeking through. I thought of some ways on how I can fix this, but I actually ended up deciding to just leave it. I'm no scientist, but with the glass on top, there won't be much air circulation inside, and especially if this gets used outdoors, I want there to be a way to keep the glass from fogging up, and if water ever gets in, maybe a place to let the water drain. But now to deal with the screws. At first I thought about just wrapping them with electrical tape, but it kind of just looked ugly, so I ended up just cutting off the tip to make them not sharp, and then just put a little bit of spray paint on them. Personally, I would have used smaller screws if I had them, but I think this will do the trick for now. Okay, now it's time for the glass. I wanted a specific size, but couldn't find anything under $100. I checked everywhere, glass shops, Amazon, Facebook Marketplace. Eventually I found an IKEA table that had the exact glass I needed, but they don't sell it separately. Buying a full table just to throw away half of it just kind of felt wrong. So I went back to Marketplace again and I actually did find one for $35. I reached out to the guy, asked him about the glass, he said it was in perfect condition. So I drove down, picked it up, got home, and of course when I cleaned it up, it was completely covered in scratches. Now when I reached out to the guy, he kind of just ghosted me, so don't be a Christopher. And I read online that apparently toothpaste can fix this, and that didn't work. So I did the only thing that you should do at this point. I just bought another table. This time it was only $20 and it was from a lovely lady and had much less scratches on it. And here it is, the final table. I think it turned out awesome. But there's one more thing. Let's see what my dad thinks. So, Father's Day is not anytime soon, but I want to make a YouTube video, so it's a Father's Day gift. I want to give it to you early, so happy Father's Day.
Okay.
Ta-da!
Holy sh**.
Oh, remember this?
Oh yeah. Wow. Ian, impressive.
So, this is the tire you gave me, like, I don't even know. The latest I was able to find is 6 years ago. But it might have been later.
I remember giving it to you.
Yeah. And yeah.
Look at that, man. Dynamite. What an ingenious son I got here.
So how old do you think this is? Like, how do you have it? How did you get it?
Dave took it from the cottage, I think, and then it was kicking around his cottage up in Red Bay, and so I said, what are you doing with that? He said, you want it? I said, sure. And then I took it and hung on to it for about 5 years.
This is probably like 15 years old.
Oh, I would say more.
Oh my god. Well,
Look, I got a cigar here. Oh.
Perfect.
Oh, dynamite, man. I got pictures of that tire with them with their feet on it.
No way. And so you wanted to make it into a table way back then.
Yeah, yeah.
What are the chances?
Same brain.
Yeah, really, eh?
Hold on. Look at that. Yeah, what was it? Tap the screen. August 9th, 2015.
So my grandma's birthday.
Now, if you're thinking about building one of these yourselves, please make sure to check the description. I'm going to include a full materials list, the tools that I used, and also a very important note about off-gassing when it comes to working with tires. As for the total cost, I spent $110 on this entire thing, not including the tire, the plywood, and the tools, which I already owned. If you enjoyed the build and you want to see more stuff like this, make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, and then also check out this video that's on screen right now. Thank you guys so much for watching.